Blood doesn't lie, but family does. Last night, my hands trembled as I wiped crimson drops from the kitchen floor, each one a reminder that monsters don't always hide under beds. Sometimes they sit at your dinner table. Sometimes they call you mother. My name is Margaret, and I am 61 years old. The bruises painting my arms tell a story I've been too ashamed to speak. The cut on my lip whispers secrets I've buried for 3 years. And the empty bank account screams truths I've been too afraid to face. They say a mother's love is unconditional. They never mention what happens when that love becomes a weapon, twisted and sharp, used to carve away your dignity one day at a time. They never tell you that the child you raised, the one you sacrificed everything for, could become the architect of your own personal hell. This is not a story about a bad son. This is a story about survival. About the moment you realize that breathing isn't living and silence isn't peace. This is about the day I decided that freedom was worth more than the fragile illusion of family. This is the day everything changed. Dawn broke through my bedroom window like an unwelcome guest, harsh and unforgiving. My body ached in places I didn't know could hurt. Every breath felt like my ribs were grinding against each other, a painful reminder of last night's rage. I touched my swollen lip gently, wincing at the sting. The mirror across the room showed a woman I barely recognized anymore. When did I become this person? When did fear become my morning routine? The house was quiet, that dangerous kind of quiet that comes before storms. I knew he was still here. I could feel his presence like a dark cloud hanging over every room, suffocating and heavy. My son. My beautiful boy who once held my hand crossing streets, who cried when his goldfish died, who promised to always protect me. That boy was gone. In his place lived someone I didn't know, someone capable of things I never imagined. I forced myself out of bed, each movement calculated and slow. The floor was cold beneath my bare feet as I made my way to the bathroom. I needed to hide the evidence before anyone saw, before he saw that I hadn't done a good enough job pretending everything was fine. The makeup kit sat on the counter, expensive foundation he bought me last week. Not a gift, a tool, something to cover his mistakes, to hide his crimes beneath layers of powder and lies. I started applying it carefully, watching my reflection transform. The bruises disappeared. The cut became invisible. The scared woman in the mirror put on a mask of normalcy, ready to perform another day of this exhausting play. Downstairs, I could hear movement. He was awake. My heart started racing immediately, that familiar panic rising in my chest like floodwater. What mood would he be in today? Would he pretend nothing happened, or would he continue where he left off? I took a deep breath and headed down the stairs, each step heavy with dread. The kitchen smelled like coffee and something else, something sour that might have been my own fear. Daniel sat at the table in his perfectly pressed gray suit, scrolling through his phone with the same casual indifference he showed everything except his own convenience. He didn't look up when I entered. Didn't acknowledge my presence with even a glance. I was furniture to him now, useful only when needed. "Breakfast," he said flatly, eyes still on his screen. "I have a meeting at 8. Make it quick, no good morning. No apology for last night. No recognition that he had beaten his own mother over unsalted soup just hours ago. In his mind, the slate was clean. In mine, another mark was carved deep. I moved to the stove mechanically, my hands knowing the routine even when my mind wanted to rebel. 3 eggs scrambled, 2 slices of wheat bread toasted golden, black coffee, no sugar. Everything exactly as he demanded, measured and precise, because anything less meant consequences. While the eggs cooked, I heard keys in the front door. My stomach dropped. It was Claire, his wife, arriving early as she often did. She breezed in wearing a cream-colored dress and heels that clicked authoritatively on the hardwood floor. "Good morning." "Mrs. Harrison," she sang out sweetly, the way she always did when Daniel was around. Her voice was honey, her smile plastic. She kissed my son on the cheek and sat beside him like royalty taking her throne. "Good morning, dear," I replied quietly, my voice steady despite the screaming inside my head. I wanted to grab her shoulders and shake her. I wanted to show her the bruises hidden beneath my clothes. I wanted to ask if she knew, if she cared, if she was blind or just willfully ignorant. But I said nothing. I just kept cooking. "You look tired." Claire observed, tilting her head with fake concern. Are you sleeping well? Before I could answer, Daniel interrupted smoothly. Mom had a little accident last night. Tripped over the bathroom mat. Nothing serious, just clumsy as usual. His tone was light, almost joking, as if broken lips and bruised ribs were just another silly mistake his foolish old mother made. Claire nodded sympathetically, already losing interest, her attention back on her phone. I placed the breakfast plates in front of them, my hands surprisingly steady. Daniel took one bite, chewed slowly, then looked up at me with those cold eyes I had grown to fear. Perfect, he said. It wasn't a compliment. It was confirmation that I had successfully completed my task without punishment. As they ate, I stood by the sink, watching them. The perfect young couple, successful, beautiful, hiding rot beneath polished surfaces. Did anyone looking at them from outside see what I saw? Did anyone suspect? Daniel finished eating and stood, straightening his red tie with practiced precision. He walked past me to leave, pausing just long enough to whisper in my ear. Remember what we discussed. One word to anyone, and you'll regret it. Then he smiled, kissed my forehead for Claire's benefit, and left. The door closed behind them both, and suddenly I could breathe again. I collapsed into a chair, my legs finally giving out. The performance was over. For now, the house felt too big and too small at the same time. Too big because the silence echoed in every room, reminding me how alone I was. Too small because the walls seemed to close in, trapping me in this nightmare with no exit. I sat at that kitchen table for what felt like hours, staring at nothing. My mind was racing but going nowhere, like a hamster on a wheel, exhausting and pointless. How did I get here? The question haunted me constantly. I used to be someone. Margaret Harrison, executive assistant at Morrison & Associates, one of the most respected law firms in the city. For 40 years, I was the woman who made things happen, who kept everyone organized, who earned respect. Now I was just scared, just tired, just broken. The phone rang, jolting me from my thoughts. Unknown number. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something made me answer. Mrs. Harrison? A man's voice, professional and serious. This is Richard Chen from the accounting department at Westfield Corporation. We need to speak with you urgently regarding some irregularities in your bank account. My blood turned to ice. What kind of irregularities? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Can you come to our office this afternoon? It's very important. I agreed, my mind spinning. What had Daniel done now? After hanging up, I knew I couldn't sit here anymore. I needed air. I needed to think. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside for the first time in days. My neighbor, Helen, was watering her garden. She was a widow in her late 60s, always kind, always smiling. When she saw me, her face lit up. Margaret! How lovely to see you. I was just thinking about you. Hello, Helen, I managed, trying to sound normal. She looked at me more closely, her smile fading slightly. Are you all right, dear? You look pale. I'm fine. Just tired. Helen stepped closer, her eyes lingering on my face despite the makeup. Did you hurt your lip? Panic flooded through me. Oh, just bumped into a cabinet door. You know how clumsy I can be. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. Well, if you ever need anything at all, you know where to find me. I'm always home. Her words touched something deep inside me. When was the last time someone offered genuine kindness? When was the last time someone actually cared? Thank you, Helen. That means more than you know. I went back inside, but her words stayed with me. If you ever need anything. It was a lifeline, small but real, extended from one human to another. It made me realize something I had forgotten. I wasn't completely alone. The Westfield Corporation building was downtown, all glass and steel, intimidating in its modern perfection. I felt small walking through those revolving doors, like I didn't belong in this world of success and money. Richard Chen's office was on the 14th floor. He was a man in his 50s, wearing glasses and a concerned expression that seemed genuine. He gestured for me to sit, and I did, my purse clutched tightly in my lap like a shield. Mrs. Harrison, thank you for coming on such short notice. He opened a folder on his desk, his expression growing more serious. I'm going to be direct with you because this situation is quite grave. My heart pounded. What's happened? We've discovered that your son, Daniel, has been embezzling funds from the company. Over the past 2 years, he's transferred approximately $90,000 to various accounts. including one in your name." The room tilted. $90,000. Daniel wasn't just abusing me physically and emotionally. He was using me as an accomplice in theft. "I didn't know," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I had no idea. He controls all my accounts. I haven't seen my own bank statements in years." Richard's expression softened with pity. "We suspected as much. That's why I wanted to speak with you before involving the authorities. Mrs. Harrison, we need you to file a formal complaint against your son for unauthorized use of your accounts. It's the only way to clear your name." "What will happen to him?" "If you press charges, combined with the embezzlement evidence, he'll likely face 5 to 10 years in prison." Prison. My son in prison. The words should have devastated me, but instead, I felt something unexpected. Relief. "I need time to think," I said, standing on shaky legs. "Of course. But Mrs. Harrison, please understand. If you don't act, you could be charged as an accomplice. I don't believe you're guilty, but the law doesn't care about what I believe. It cares about evidence." I left that office in a daze, walking the city streets for hours. By the time I made my way home, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Beautiful and violent, like everything in my life lately. Daniel was already home when I arrived. He was sitting in the living room, and the moment he saw my face, he knew. Somehow he always knew. "Where were you?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "I went for a walk." He stood slowly, his tall frame suddenly menacing. "Don't lie to me. Where were you?" "I was at your office." The words came out stronger than I expected. "I talked to Richard Chen." His face changed completely. The mask slipped, revealing pure rage beneath. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That I didn't know about the money. That you've been controlling my entire life." He moved fast, crossing the room in 3 strides. His hand shot out, grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise. "You stupid woman! Do you have any idea what you've done?" But this time, something was different. This time I didn't cower. "Let go of me." My voice didn't shake. My eyes met his without flinching. He was so surprised by my defiance that he actually released me. "You're going to regret this. You're going to wish you'd kept your mouth shut." "I'm done being afraid of you, Daniel." The doorbell rang, breaking the tension. It was Helen, holding a casserole dish, but her eyes were sharp and worried. Behind her stood a younger woman I'd never seen before. "Hello, Margaret," Helen said carefully. "This is my niece, Patricia. She's a social worker. We heard shouting and wanted to make sure everything was okay." Daniel's expression shifted instantly, his charming mask sliding back into place. "Everything's fine. My mother was just upset about some family matters. You know how emotional women can get." But Patricia was looking at me, really looking, her trained eyes seeing past the makeup and the lies. "Mrs. Harrison, would you like to speak with me privately?" It was a simple question. A door opening, a choice. I could say no. I could send them away. I could go back to my prison and pretend everything was normal. Or I could walk through that door and never look back. "Yes," I said, my voice clear and strong. Yes, I would. That night changed everything. Patricia and Helen didn't leave my side as I told them everything. Every beating, every threat, every stolen dollar, every moment of terror I'd endured for 3 years. Patricia made phone calls. Within hours, a police officer and a victim's advocate arrived at my door. By midnight, Daniel was in handcuffs, screaming threats as they led him away. "You'll regret this." "I'll destroy you." "You're nothing without me." But his words bounced off me like rain off glass. I was done absorbing his poison. The next morning, Helen insisted I stay with her while my house became a crime scene, photographed and documented as evidence. I sat in her guest room, wrapped in a borrowed robe, drinking tea and feeling oddly numb. "How are you holding up?" Helen asked gently, sitting beside me. "I don't know," I admitted. "I should feel relieved. Instead, I just feel empty. That's normal. You've been surviving for so long, you forgot what living feels like. It takes time to remember." Over the next few weeks, the legal process unfolded. Daniel's lawyer tried every trick to get him released, but the evidence was overwhelming. The embezzlement, the abuse, the financial control, all documented and undeniable. But Daniel wasn't finished. From jail, he sent me a letter filled with threats about secrets from my past, mistakes I'd made decades ago at the law firm. He promised to expose me, to drag me down with him, to make sure I paid for my betrayal. Fear crept back in. What if he could actually do it? What if my past mistakes cost me my freedom? I showed the letter to Patricia, who connected me with a prosecutor named Sarah Bennett. Sarah read the letter carefully, her expression thoughtful. "This is blackmail," she said simply. "And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take away his power by telling the truth first." "What do you mean?" "You're going to publicly admit any mistakes you made in the past before he can use them against you. We'll do a press conference. You'll tell your story, the abuse, the theft, and yes, any small legal missteps you made years ago. We'll show that you're a victim who's been manipulated, not a criminal." It was terrifying. It meant exposing myself completely, but it also meant freedom. The press conference was held on a Tuesday afternoon. Cameras, reporters, microphones everywhere. I sat at a table, my hands folded, and I told the world everything. My name is Margaret Harrison. I am 61 years old. For 3 years I was abused by my son. He beat me, controlled my money, and used me as an accomplice in his crimes without my knowledge. He is now trying to blackmail me with mistakes I made decades ago. Mistakes I'm going to tell you about right now before he can weaponize them. I confessed to small legal errors from my time at the law firm. Nothing major, but things that could have been twisted into something bigger. I held nothing back. I would rather face the consequences of my past than remain a prisoner of my son's manipulation. I'm telling my story so that other women know they don't have to live in fear. Secrets lose their power when you speak them out loud. The response was overwhelming. Women called, wrote letters, shared their own stories. The prosecutor's office announced they wouldn't pursue charges against me, recognizing me as a victim rather than an accomplice. And Daniel? His blackmail lost all its teeth. His trial proceeded, and he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for embezzlement, domestic abuse, and attempted witness intimidation. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen making coffee, the morning sun streaming through clean windows. The house felt different now, lighter, mine. Helen and I had become like sisters. Patricia checked in regularly, helping me navigate therapy and healing. I'd even started working part-time at a women's shelter, helping others find their own paths to freedom. My phone rang. It was a number I recognized, the prison. "Mom." Daniel's voice was small, defeated. "Hello, Daniel. I saw your interview on TV last month, the one about domestic abuse survivors. And? You looked happy. Happier than I've seen you in years. I am happy. For the first time in a very long time." There was a long pause. "Do you hate me?" "No," I said honestly. "I pity you. You had love and you turned it into a weapon. You had a mother and you made her an enemy. You did this to yourself. Will you ever forgive me? Maybe. Someday. When you actually change, when you understand what you did, when you stop making excuses. But Daniel, that's your journey. Mine is about moving forward, not looking back." I hung up and turned off the ringer. Today was my day off, and I was meeting Helen and some other friends for lunch. Real friends, who saw me as a person, not a servant. As I locked my door and walked into the sunshine, I realized something profound. For 61 years, I thought I knew what freedom meant. But I was wrong. Freedom wasn't just about leaving abuse. It was about reclaiming yourself, your voice, your choices, your life. I had spent 3 years in a prison with walls I could touch. But I'd spent even more years in a prison built from fear, from silence, from the belief that I deserved less than basic human dignity. Today, both prisons were behind me. Today, I was free. And freedom, I discovered, was the most beautiful thing in the world.